Jupiter, a Good Karma Brands radio station.
Today you get to decide, are you a player hater or are you happy that players are getting paid at the collegiate level?
Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios.
The man your man could smell.
Theo Dorsey is theoretically speaking.
But are you a different animal and the same beast?
What does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
Streaming live on YouTube, here's Theo Dorsey.
What a wonderful Thursday night, rolling into a beautiful Friday evening here on Theoretically Speaking. It's your boy Theo Dorsey, C-Cat, on the other side of the glass on the ones and twos. And on this blessed day where we learn that money is about to be pouring in for student athletes, at least now directly funded by their schools, for a guy like me, I'm a little excited about that. I'm happy about that. I think it's a good thing, but I know that I'm not maybe even on all the way the side of the popular opinion on this. The players are about to get paid. Now, you know, it was fun for me, C-Cat, watching last night's Eastern Conference Finals Game 2, watching the Celtics and the Pacers go after it. It was a pretty good game there in the first half. I kind of was triple screening it. I'm triple screening it. On one screen, I have Celtics-Pacers going back and forth. Early on, I thought the Pacers would cover. I know there's a lot of people out there mad at Rick Carlisle. We'll get to that later on. I was hoping the Pacers would cover so that I could stay up in our playoff payoff. Right now, we're not at 2-1 because you won last night and I didn't.
Yeah.
It's not about that. I'm triple screening Pacers-Celtics. Number one, because, well, Pacers-Celtics isn't Mavericks-Timberwolves, which is what we're getting tonight. But also, because on one screen, I have my laptop. I'm editing stuff that I'm doing, working on some stories for ESPN West Palm Play, which you should check out on YouTube. And then also, on my third screen, I have my phone in my hand. And I'm scrolling through and I'm reading tweets. I'm digging into articles because I am fascinated, absolutely fascinated about what's happening right now in the landscape of collegiate athletics, House versus NCAA. And what it pretty much delves out is that the NCAA, the Power 4 or 5 schools, whichever you want to call it, is going to now have the ability to and really going to be pressured to be paying players in a revenue-sharing way. That means that you don't just go to school and get NIL anymore. Now you can get maybe some NIL endorsement deals on top of a salary potentially in the NCAA if this does get passed by a judge. This right here is unprecedented. It is immaculate. This is the first time in the history of collegiate athletics that the NCAA is signing up for something like this. Not, hey, you can pay kids under the table. And not, oh, you can go ask boosters for money or get fans to donate money and then you get it to the kids. That way, now they are directly setting up an opportunity for pay for play. And for once, the bigwigs in the offices of the NCAA no longer able to sit around and do this.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
As it reads, this agreement would agree to compensate close to 25,000 athletes who attended the Division I colleges and were unable to take advantage of NIL. There were 3 active antitrust suits. I don't want to get into the explanation of this. I want to get to the meat of what we're hearing right now. College athletes are about to be able to get paid directly from schools. That means that the ones that are signing on National Signing Day, that means that the kids that are currently in school, the Shadur Sanders of the world, quarterback for Colorado, the Edwards, running back at Michigan. Who's your favorite college football player right now at Penn State for UC Cat?
Drew Aller, quarterback who had a bad first season.
I was about to say the Drew Aller stuff wasn't so hot. Are y'all optimism still out there for the Nittany Lions?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, schedule's easier this year than last year.
Well, you know what? Sometimes people are incentivized to play better when they get paid better. And if this does pass, student athletes will be getting paid from the NCAA. I don't want to do something also unprecedented on a day like today. I don't want to try and big up or match the energy of the NCAA right now, but I might as well. For the first time in Theoretically Speaking history, we're actually going to open up the phone lines a little early here. The Baptist Health Hotline, 888-760-3776, 888-760-3776. I know that colleges directly paying student athletes is controversial. I know it's opening up another can of worms because there are going to be unintended consequences whenever you make anything that is wide-scale changing like this. But I ask you the question, is colleges directly paying student athletes good for college football or college athletics as a whole? And for me personally, I have to say it feels amazing. I think that when you look at the landscape of college athletics right now and for how long they've been able to benefit off of not paying athletes directly, benefit off of cheaper or free labor at sometimes, now them having to figure out their budgets, having to actually factor players in, and potentially what we're hearing right now is a revenue sharing model that Power 5 conferences and the NCAA will have to get into. So for me, what I'm hearing with that is you can directly feel like if you're a student athlete competing and contending for wins. You remember when Johnny Manziel was on Shannon Sharp's couch for all the Uncle Shay Shay or Club Shay Shay room. He talked specifically about, I'm out here winning football games for the Aggies, something that they hadn't done before I stepped on that campus for a few years, and they didn't do for a few years after him. He was putting the Aggies on the map, was in the Heisman, obviously, Heisman finalist and a winner. Johnny Manziel was a guy who felt like my contribution to winning is not contributing to my paychecks, to my pockets, while everybody else is sitting up there and getting fat stacks off of them. I, for one, am totally glad that collegiate athletes are going to be able to get paid from the top dogs, from the ones that are making the money, that are striking these big media deals. I do understand the unintended consequences of it, and I do understand that this is going to further the gap between the Power 5 and the Group of 5. I do understand that this is going to maybe have some unintended consequences that hurt other sports, like the volleyballs and the lacrosses of the world at these major sporting collegiate universities. Like, that's going to happen. There are going to be some negatives to it. But another thing I understand is these dudes are making a lot of bread. And I know that resources are finite, and I know that in collegiate athletics at a certain point when you have 20 different staffers making this amount of salary to be able to take care of all of these different things, you have these beautiful facilities that they sprout up. I remember when Xavier Worthy, the first-round pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, went from the University of Texas's facilities to what they have over there at Arrowhead Stadium. And he was like, this is a little bit poverty. Well, guess what? In the NFL, they're splitting the pie halfway. Now in the NCAA, Power 5 conferences are going to be able to split it about 20 to 22% if we're believing the reports and if the judge passes this. Things are about to heat up in a heavy way in collegiate athletics here. And for me, I'm all aboard for this. CCAT, again, we discussed, you're a Penn State fan. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. You're a guy, though, that's actually in one of the protected conferences. You're in the Big Ten. For you, there's actually way less downside to this. This gives, the Penn State squads and the teams in that conference with you a bit of a heads up, a bit of an edge.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Penn State makes so much money off of football. Like, it's not just boosters. It's straight up profit off of tickets. It's straight up profit off of merchandise, off of parking. Like, they make all that money. It's time to give the guys that are on the gridiron, earning that popularity, earning those wins, earning that nationwide recognizable brand of Penn State. It's time they get a cut of the pie.
It's about that time. And if you're wondering, like, okay, was this that big of a deal? Is this that life-changing? Paul Feinbaum earlier on ESPN, when you're trying to put this, every single time we have a big story, a big landmark decision, you try and put it within context of what else is going on in sports. Paul Feinbaum had a definitive statement earlier today on Get Up about what House versus the NCAA, and they're now knowing that there's going to be a potential for pay-for-play, specifically from schools to players, no middlemen. This is what Paul Feinbaum, how he contextualizes a big story like today's.
But this is the most significant day in the history of the NCAA because the sham that the NCAA has always been is over. They have always fought on every mountain to defend the right that this is really amateur athletics when we've all known that has not been the case for a long time. And finally, they had to agree to it in court to avoid what? To avoid literally going out of business, because had this case gone to trial, they would have been wiped out. I mean, if you agree to settle something for $2.8 billion, can you imagine how much exposure you had? So the NCAA plus the conferences that were dragged into it alongside simply wave the white flag. They have the money. This isn't really to further student athletes, quote unquote, so to speak. This is to prevail and preserve their own ability to continue to be in existence.
The NCAA is not out of nowhere just being altruistic. Oh man, we're gonna go out here and we're gonna take care of the people that are putting money in our pockets. No,
Damn it, enough is enough.
like, do you think that those guys that who I saw in the Big Ten there was a report that Jim Delaney, who's been retired since 2021, was the highest paid Big Ten employee last year with just under $6 million he acquired last year as a retired employee doing nothing for the Big Ten right now. You think a guy like him is like, oh, yeah, man, you know what? I just feel bad, man. I see the stories about these student athletes. I see the stories about these college basketball players talking about how they're hungry through March Madness, and I just wanted to do something to help the common man.
No.
The NCAA was about to implode because of all the antitrust lawsuits and because of all the rulings that were happening across the nation, that all of them were going in favor of the other side. You know what the NCAA did? They pulled a Rick Carlisle and they pulled the starters. They said, this thing's about over with. The ship is about to sink, and it's time for us to get out while we can. And what that results in is now, again, roughly $2.8 billion in NIL back pay over the next decade. And power conference schools, they're going to be able to share in the neighborhood of 20% of their revenue share with the players going forward. And when they say you're going to have the opportunity to, what that really means is you better. Because if you're Penn State, if you're USC in the Big Ten now, even if you're Miami in the ACC, and you want the Jaden Rashadas of the world, guess what? You're going to have to pay to get those guys in the same way that you had to pay to get them in for NIL. Now there's going to be a little more structure with it, and it's going to come directly from the school. And again, speaking of Jaden Rashada, you can maybe thank him and his situation that happened with the Gators out in Gainesville and even Arizona State for having some push into making this a reality. Players about to get paid now, man. This is a totally different world in college athletics. And Paul Feinbaum says it's the biggest day in the history of the NCAA. I'd say it's the biggest day since we learned that EA Sports was coming back out with the college football game.
It's a massive day, dude. And I don't know where the haters, the people that can't stand the fact that we're getting further and further away, and I think this was the nail in the coffin of college sports being an amateur activity, right?
Yeah.
No longer. No, these guys are getting paid, and college athletes have been treated as if they were professionals by the fans, right?
Yeah.
Those DMs fill up when they drop a pass. Those DMs fill up when they miss a wide-open three. They were treated like they're getting paid before actually cashing checks from the university.
Exactly. And also, you know what? All of that amateurism, protecting amateurism stuff, that was the most blatant piece of propaganda that for some reason college football fans specifically, but also other collegiate sports, the basketballs and the volleyballs and the softballs of the world, people glued to that so heavily as if that was the real reason why the higher ups, the people in control, didn't want to pay the athletes. We're protecting amateurism.
Yeah, like welcome to the real world. The guys don't want to get paid.
Yeah.
And newsflash, college sports isn't about amateurism. It's about tradition, and none of that tradition is going to go away. Are they going to stop playing Enter Sandman at Virginia Tech? No. Are they going to stop jumping in the bushes at Auburn after a big win? No. It's still going to be the same product, if not a better product, on the field come fall.
And is Notre Dame going to continue to disappoint us at the end of every year?
Probably.
Well, yeah, that's going to happen still. And that's the thing about collegiate athletics, too. I think the thing that is more damning, the thing that is more threatening to the traditions is all of the realignment and the teams no longer having the regional rivals and whatnot that you would have that you think back to and back in the day. And even currently right now, the fact that the Pac-12 is no longer going to be around. But paying these players, most certainly, I'm not worried about the ramifications outside of I do feel bad. I do feel bad for the non-revenue sports right now because those are going to be the people that feel it the worst, non-revenue sports, and then also some of the group of five teams who are already struggling to recruit in the NIL era now try and compete against schools that are actually allowed to pay players and see how many of those group of five teams actually jump on board with that. But I ask you again, is it good for sports? Is it good for collegiate athletics that schools can pay players directly. 888-760-3776, 888-760-3776. That's the number to call in to Theoretically Speaking. That is the Baptist Health Hotline. And are you experiencing foot and ankle pain and need to see an expert in the field? Baptist Health Orthopedic Care has a team of foot and ankle orthopedic surgeons and specialists who are regarded as leaders in their specialty. Visit baptisthealth.net/ortho to learn more today. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care combines its resources of experienced physicians and leading-edge treatments and technology to provide advanced orthopedic, foot and ankle, joint replacement, spine, and sports medicine care. Visit baptisthealth.net/ortho for more information today. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care has offices conveniently located in Palm Beach County through the Florida Keys. Learn more by visiting baptisthealth.net/ortho. It's a Top 5 Friday here on Theoretically Speaking. It's not just are we going to talk about the Eastern Conference Finals game too? Yes, I will get to that. I know Celtics fans probably want me to, own up to saying that they weren't going to be able to do it. I had the Pacers covering. There was a lot of issues that happened down the stretch in that game. There was an injury to Tyrese Halliburton. We'll get to all of that. But more importantly, it's Memorial Day weekend. You could tell around here that it's a holiday weekend because, on holiday Fridays.
Yeah, no one shows up.
Town.
What is that about, man? We're still here. What if we did the same thing? We had dead air for an hour.
Well, we're doing the opposite. We're doing the exact opposite. We're delivering right now. We're also going to bring in Chris Canty from Unsportsmanlike. You hear him on 6 to 10 a.m. Here on ESPN 106.3. We're bringing in Chris Canty because I need some help. I am moving on from my young adulthood. I'm moving into my middle-agedom. And for my birthday this year, C-Cat, which is coming up on Tuesday, I'm getting myself a grill.
Wow.
I'm getting myself a grill. I'm becoming a man. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to learn how to cook the meats. And to help me get started with that, we're going to lean on Chris Canty from Unsportsmanlike, who had a huge, colossal take on grills. So I need to, before I purchase that grill, before I get that for my birthday, I need to run by the specs on him so I'm not embarrassed.
Good idea.
We got to do this the right way. Theoretically speaking, when we come back, we have Chris Canty. We'll talk some playoffs. We'll talk some grilling. We'll talk some Memorial Day weekend. That's C-Cat. I'm Theo Dorsey. We're Theoretically Speaking on ESPN 106.3.
Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. This